Dumelang Sanbonani, welcome to another episode of Men 360, a space where we challenge and we reflect and we reimagine masculinity through conversations with all generations, with all genders. As Kete Balalomdu, Siyancokola. Thank you for joining us for this episode. It's still a monologue again. The Sesebhizi noXhuku lwalapha South Africa. Answering different questions. So yeah, let's get to this one and see how far we go. Thank you again for joining. Please don't forget to subscribe. I don't know where the buttons are, but yeah, press where you need to press, dial where you need to dial, and share with your friends so that we extend the community and the family that we are building here. What do men want? It depends as well. What kind of a man? Because I don't think it's a one size fit all what men want. We are inspired by different things. Inspired by where we come from, what we have seen, what we have not seen, what we desire because of our imagination. So it will not be a one size fit all that men. Maybe one thing that men want, or sex. Men love sex. I think that's the most common thread. But on the how and so on, it's a different one. So we're inspired by different things. Others want structured things. Others don't want structured things. Others just want to exist. Others are high-end, ambitious individuals who are living in a tumble dryer, always trying to achieve one thing after another. And others are just, okay, I've got my IT diploma, ngizidrivela Ford Focus yami. I can pay, for the things that need to be paid for, whether it's school fees abantwana, imedi lana, or amapia namajita, umagogo endlini umbhekele. We were inspired by different things. So we will not box every man and say this is what men are looking for. But I'm sure we can attest that men are looking for peace. Men are looking for safe spaces. Others do go out for chaos, but I think as far as relationships are concerned, because I think this is in the context of relationships, men do want peace. Whether they want to be with one person or two people or more, it depends on individuals, whether they want to be monogamous or polygamous or serial cheatists. Or just abstain from relationships, because there are men who are just like, that's too much. We're not going to do it. Kasi it's into it. Ke utlwile ke lapile bomme ba ntapisitse ke siame ke tlo ba father. So yeah, we don't know. Men look for different things as far as relationships are concerned. Yeah, I wrote an article and I asked a question: what kind of society are we, that produces these men who are looking for stages to perform, this masculinity that says mponeng, want to flaunt money, want to flaunt women, alcohol, and the race of having to acquire these things even makes us to lose what our mothers and fathers had taught us to be, and we've made it such an okay thing that we're continuously trying to perform. That's why when you get to a club, there are these starlights that they light up and they shine and they come towards you guys and everyone is excited and there's this attention that is drawn to yourselves and you're hoping that they are women who are going to take notice and they'll join you, Some of us even spend money that we do not have. But I think in the light of what's happening with the Madlanga Commission, the lottery, and I think these are stories that have been here, they've been building up, but I think as society we've not paused to really ask the pertinent question of how did we get here? It's worse when people are stealing from the ones who are in need just for them to show up in these stages so that they perform. And one thing I also observed is how this cohort of men who wants to be validated, who want to be applauded by their peers, if I can call them their peers, how we tend to go for the same women. So if you check these guys that are in the news and so on, you'll realize whether it's Boket, whether it's Bosodi, whether it's some of these politicians, there's just a small cohort of women that seem to be rotating amongst them, you know. Today it's this one. So look, I find some type of, resources. They want to show that they've arrived by having to acquire one of these women, and you definitely know this person was with Sodi or was with Ked, but we are up wena. Isidima sakho izindoda siphi. So this is the same person you're gonna flaunt and come back to the same circle and say, yeah, I'm here with my woman. But everyone else knows what your woman looks like. So where is self-respect as far as men are concerned? And it must tell us how sick we are, that we would want to either work hard or steal hard just to come and prove a point and be validated by being with this one particular woman. But also the acquisition of cars. Men don't buy homes and cars because of they love that. But it must be part of the voices that it must speak before I speak. Where does Bongani stay? He stays in what estate? Because men tend to think that we class each other, and we want to be respected not because of my character and the principles and values that I hold, but by the title and the bells that ring around me. So what car does Bongani drive? Where does he stay? What job title does he have? And the things that he eats and drinks will then probably tell us what could be his bank balance, And even in the community of men, when you introduce a man and say this is Busiso, men are not really interested. We're waiting for the after. Busiso wa Ndoni. So I'll say no. This is the Busiso who runs what empire. And then now they're gonna now sit straight and really see you and shake your hand and be interested in you. But it was like, this is Tabang, my cousin. Oh, Tabang Bong and his cousin. Until there must be a label that follows, so that we can then know what level do we put you in, because we gauge each other as men. And you'll also even see this gauging with the people we confide in, for which is another conversation we would have when people say amadoda wathethe banna ba bua, but re choose gore bua le bomang. And the first thing would be, if I speak to this man, so in the circle of 5 friends, there must be one that I admire, whether because he's got a stable family, he's a good husband, he's a good father to his kids. I respect him because of that. So I'll go and seek guidance. Somebody else could be well educated than me, or probably has got a better paycheck. So because of that, I hold them at a high regard. And that's where I'm going to look for guidance from. But in the midst of men, I would not tell men that, hey, gents, I was not able to pay for school fees. No. But I will find a gift amongst us whom I hold at high regard and be able to say, I need to close 1, 2, 3. How would you guide me on this and this? Or what should I do? Or, what, I don't know. So men find, and we gauge each other. So the only time you would know and understand why Bongani speaks to this one, you must ask what that person is. So even the guys that we're talking about, everyone is trying to be the big boss. In their circles. If you were to ask them, why do you want to drive this car? Why? Why do you want to drive a GTS or a GTI? Because men's egos, I think, we tend to, until you have found yourself and realize that life is bigger than people's eyes, you'll be entrapped in the I want my street cred to speak for me, and it will only speak for me because of the things I acquire. So if they see me driving this car that makes noise, they'll respect me. And we think we have arrived, but that's what makes us tick. That's what makes us feel validated, feel I'm a man, daughter, so it's quite chaotic. So I penned this article because of that this chaos that we find ourselves in, and we have tend to normalize these things. And I think the people were writing on social media, but hey, with these commissions, at least now the playground will be level. It must still tell you where men are entrapped, Like, I know, hey, at least now the playing field will be level. Bazobuya labo sisi so bathengela ama-crone manje, bayothengelwa yithi ama-crone, because again, we are living in this space of, I don't know whether it's our DNA or how God had created us, of being not only people's pleasers, but we start by wanting to please our own mothers, any boy who's now a man, if you were to ask them, Mabakul, they wanted to be good boys to their mothers, Yes, of course, your father would validate you and so on, but boys want to please their mothers, and that's why when we grow up, we want to please the women we date or end up marrying, And if you don't get that sense of being needed, being seen, being validated, then you find no purpose and meaning in your own life. So it's good when it's a constructive trajectory than this chaotic one that we find ourselves in, where we want to prove our worth on useless things, on women and cars, and spend monies that we don't have, and others even go as far as having to steal that money. So how do we rechannel this competitive energy that wants to be, you want to be seen, recognized, but you don't have to take this chaotic route where you are literally going on a slippery slope. But how do I build myself as a man and feel like a man and be seen as a man? Others would say a man of purpose, man of value. But now where you do not lose the essence of what you were taught as values and principles at your home, whether by your mom and dad or your mom or how. So we ought to ask ourselves, how do we rechannel this energy that men tend to be having of wanting to be pleasers? I'll make another example of within the work I do. I've asked the men, why do you want to spend so much money in lawyers defending you not getting or paying so much maintenance instead of using that money to maintain your child? Ngifuna ukuthi angibone, ngifuna ukumgcwalisela, ngibatla mbone and have an understanding I'm quite big, I'll take this thing far. So you're trying to prove a point on something that is going to impact your child negatively. So why aren't you rechanneling these resources for a betterment of your child's life? So I think as men we need to recenter ourselves, find ourselves, and pace ourselves, because the question should be, if this is a kind of society we are living in, are we comfortable to live this same society or make it an inheritance for our own kids? If this chaos we are in now is what we are living in, are we comfortable that tomorrow if I die in Dungbongan, I'm comfortable that I would have left my kids in a community where there's functionality or there's this dysfunctionality? And if the answer is no, then why are we carrying on the same way? Look, the identity of men and whether we have it or we don't. And there are those who have identified who they are, and then there are those who are still in a journey of becoming, this man that they've imagined or dreamt of. You can place that in two places. One, it could be in the Council of Men, where we gather and we produce knowledge and feed into each other to become better men. And we use the resources that we have to help each other, and do not find joy in other men having to be less fortunate than you, especially in the midst of friends. There are men whom in their circle just want to be the big boys. And I've always said it, if society thinks women are gold diggers, you must go and see how men behave around a man who's got more resources than them. Or when you were like, I'm down and out, but Mandla has got resources, and see how fluff and tippy toe and want to, next thing like just that's how as kissers we can be, when someone is more successful than you. But the more we get into the spaces where we gather as men and have conversations that affect our lives, we would then be able to say, do I really want to be where I am? Am I happy with the man that I am? So by the time you go in this space where there are other men, you should have said and had a conversation with yourself as Ubongan and say, before my partner, or before my kids and my siblings, who am I? And am I genuinely happy with where I find myself? And do I find myself here because I got lost in Ndilapa, or it's a consequence of my actions or non-actions? And once you get an answer from that, you should then be able to say, how then do I put my foot forward and find a path that I would be pleased with? And what would I be pleased with as far as myself? Before somebody else applauds, before somebody says they are proud of you, before somebody else says, actually cut your hair, remove your beard, and they have an input on what you should be, where do I see myself and where do I locate myself in this life? Because unfortunately, you can't sit by and watch life happen. So once I've been in conversation with myself and honestly and truthfully be able to say I'm where I am because of my actions or non-actions moving forward, which means I need to act or not act on these things so that I become a better version of what I've imagined for myself. And also then say, what are the external factors that contribute to this thing that I am or that I am not? Are the external factors derailing me in becoming that which I am? Other men would say, I would have went back to school, but I've been taking care of my siblings. And in taking care of my siblings, the money that could have been for my self-development is developing them. And probably you have actually done that, and today you are faced with a response that says, "Khange sikucele." And now you are sitting where you are sitting, and you despise yourself for not having chosen yourself first. And sometimes it could be that you are where you are because the decisions that you took were negative. Either you experienced a lot with alcohol, or you picked up a habit of gambling. But there are things that have squarely rest on your actions. And you've got to be able to say, okay, I am where I am because I put myself in this position. But there is a chance of taking myself out. And what does that look like? And once you have answered that, then say, whom outside of myself and the commitment of myself in taking myself out of Lobishe Ngulona, who else then? My friends, my pastor, my boss at work, somebody at the university who could help me navigate back into a path that would make me be proud of myself before somebody else becomes proud of me. Because the danger of being a man that does not have an identity, you are going to be identified by other people. People are going to tell you who you are. And unfortunately, once people tell you who you are going to live a continuous life of trying to be that which they said you are. Because when I know who I am, when somebody else tells me I am this, typical thing, Munna ki van, I will tell you, I don't drive a van. I've got no ambition of driving a van, because you know who you are and you know where you want to go. So when somebody else gives you a responsibility that is beyond what you have identified yourself to be, then you're able to say, no, you guys are not talking to me. The ones who want to be that, they will listen. Because of it's a level of, you arrive at that level where you're conscious on who you are. You identify yourself and the things you want and the things that you do not want. So that when society starts making noise and when there's chaos, then you're able to say, no, this one is not mine because I know who I am. And they'll rather label you. And definitely people are going to label you. Your family is going to label you. Your friends are going to label you. Your partner, because of now you have the opportunity of having to remote you and direct you where you should go. And now you are this man who is grounded, who's centered, who knows what he wants. And of course, once you've got that, people are going to name you. They're going to label you. And they're going to even take you to the worst names. You're a chauvinist. You are unkind. All of those things, they'll come because you have arrived at a level of self-realization, self-identification, and you have said, because this is what I want for Ubongani, this is how I'm going to move. And those who are now not able to sway you, they're going to insult you. And you must be prepared for those things. Men 360 podcast is an extension of the work that we continuously do in the foundation with men, with fathers or data. But I want it to be a safe space for us to have conversations that many men can't have because we don't want to be labeled. Because we are in a 21st century where there's so much, dilly-dallying, because men have been given labels, men have been told what they should be and what they shouldn't be, that we are afraid of being the things that we want to be. So I want this space to be a safe space for us to have those conversations, the uneasy conversations, the contradictory conversations, but also let it be an opportunity for us as men to learn and unlearn some of the things that we have picked up in our journey of life. But also we want to extend the same space for women. Let it be a space where men and women talk to each other, not about each other and not past each other. Because in the midst of building this society we live in, we're making one mistake of having conversations in isolation. Women are on the left, men are on the right, or vice versa. And with these loud voices in these sides, we're hoping that some Holy Spirit, will make us realize that this is where the chaos is, guys. And how do we move forward from that? But let this be a space where men and women can talk to each other, can try and find common solutions, but also be a space where we accept where we differ and be okay to say, here we agree to disagree, and we'll allow each other to live and coexist in that disagreement.